Hello, and welcome to Movie Memories. You Must Remember This, a podcast that focuses on movies and our favorite memories of them. Each week, we discuss the films that are celebrating an anniversary from when they came out in theaters. While we certainly can't discuss every movie that came out this week, we talk about films that stand out to us, or stood the test of time as a household name, from the first viewing to what they mean to us now. My name is Sword Alexander, and I'm joined by the inspiration of this podcast, my mom, Tracey.
Hi, everybody.
This week, we're talking about the following movies released between March 16th and March 22nd. The following films are as such. March 16th, 1979, a film released called The China Syndrome. March 17th, 1995, Losing Isaiah. March 17th, 2006, V for Vendetta. March 18th, 1976, The Man Who Fell to Earth. March 18th, 1988, Little Nikita. March 18th, 1994, The Paper. March 19th, 1982, Victor Victoria. March 19th, 2004, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. March 20th, 1992, Basic Instinct. March 21st, 1997, Liar Liar. This week, we decide to see The China Syndrome and Little Nikita to get a fresh look and discuss them in more detail. But first, I want to talk about why we started this. As you know, Mom, I really am taken back by your memory of things. You know, we've had a lot of memories over the years of watching movies. My first film that you said that I've ever seen was The Lion King, is that correct?
Yes, you loved that movie when you were just an infant, really.
And obviously we both love movies a lot, but what really stood out to me is that when we'd watch films together, I'd find myself asking you, do you remember when this movie came out or that movie came out, and what it was like? I mean, you've seen some of the most popular films that are still talked about to this day, and you won't really get a chance to be able to revisit those memories that often. So I thought this would be a good way for us to be able to put this into our legacy of talking about these movies that either meant a lot to us or didn't mean a lot to us. You have the generational perspective as a baby boomer, being able to see the most popular films like Star Wars, View to a Kill, like all these James Bond movies and all these incredible films that have come out over the years. And you get to be there in the theater when they actually came out.
Yeah, like The Deer Hunter.
And The Shining.
And many others.
And I certainly have a lot of films that I love growing up and watching and seeing in theaters as well. So it'd be nice to be able to get my perspective too as a millennial. And this is something that's more of a positive view where two generations can either argue or discuss things and have a good time talking about the same things that we love at the same time, which is movies.
That made an impact.
Exactly. So this week we decided to see those two films, The China Syndrome and Little Nikita. But before we dive into those two movies, I want to talk about briefly the other films that I'd mentioned before. First up is V for Vendetta. It was released again on March 17, 2006 across the U.S. It was based on a comic book, which was based on the gunpowder plot. It was a serious scandal. It was a plot to overthrow King James by assassinating him and a bunch of his cohorts. It was a very serious thing. It was essentially assassinating a president. It was assassinating a king. And it tells the story of a woman who becomes involved in a plot to destroy an authoritarian government similar to 1984, that famous book that's been adapted several times into film as well. Do you have any memories of V for Vendetta in any way, shape, and form? It's celebrating 19 years to this day.
So, I think Natalie Portman was in it.
Yes.
And I think she shaved her head.
She did.
So that's the memories that I have of it. I didn't go see it. I think I was really busy at that time with other things in my life. I remember them marketing it. It seemed kind of futuristic from my memory, the film, but I didn't get to go see it.
It really was, it was sort of realistic. I saw the film. I saw it a couple of times. I think the most recent time that I saw it was around 2019. And I mean, I really loved it. It was a great film. The ending is so shocking. It still is to this day because it's so much inspired by this gunpowder plot. It happened in 1606, I believe, and it was very serious because people were arrested. A man named Guy Fawkes became the de facto leader of the gunpowder plot, even though he didn't actually start it. He got arrested because what they were going to do is they were going to blow up all of these gunpowder barrels, either underneath or around King James's home. And that's how I understand it. I'm no expert. I only have so much understanding about this plot, but he ended up getting arrested, and he became the focal point, figurehead for this gunpowder plot, and it was very severe, very serious.
V for Vendetta was the future.
Yes. So this historical incident, inspired Alan Moore to write V for Vendetta, which was, like I said, how I describe it is like 1984. It is an authoritarian government owned by several people and run by several people of the same type. They get rid of minorities. They get rid of people with less backgrounds compared to like white people typically. And it was even though a lot of people were persecuted in this world. And it's about overthrowing a government and realizing what truth actually is true and what it means to be really free and what it means to fight against true evil, even if the evil says that they're good. It's very much inspired by this incredible story of rebellion and revolution, and I really liked it. I thought it was a great film, but I don't remember seeing it because it came out in 2006. I was 11. Actually, I was 10, about to turn 11, so it was way before my time. But when I eventually was old enough to appreciate it, I mean, I really much enjoyed it, and I'm more than happy to see it again in the future, and I'd love for you to see it again, see it for the first time, because you've never seen it before,
I never saw it.
Ralph Fiennes played V, who was the they call him a terrorist. He really is a terrorist, because he's overthrowing a government at the end of the day. But he was fantastic, and you never see his face. You see the Guy Fawkes mask he has on. It was great. I really enjoyed it. So next up is a movie that you're more familiar with, which is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It was released on March 19th, 2004, so it is celebrating its 21st anniversary. Would you like to briefly describe what the plot is about?
I saw it a couple of times in the theater back then, and then I think I saw it once on TV. You know, I think we even have the video.
Yeah, we do. I think we have the DVD of it.
But it's a weird premise. It's about memory and your memories.
Speaking of which.
Yeah. But it's been so long since I've seen it. It's been over 10 years since we've reviewed it,
well,
I think.
You remember it pretty well. I've seen it once, and I liked it. I mean, I thought it was an excellent film, but it's not something I want to see over and over again, because it's a very sad story. It's about a man and a woman who meet, and they have a great relationship, but then things fall through to the point where they want to erase each other's memories.
Yes.
So there's this company that you can pay to erase your memories of that person.
Because he was so heartbroken about his relationship.
Yeah.
And so
it was starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet.
Yes.
And
then Kirsten Dunst is in it too.
That's right.
And there were some other famous actors in it. I think the guy who played the Hulk, he's in it.
Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah, I think he's
right.
in it.
I looked up on Wikipedia. Yes, that's true.
I think he's in it. So there were some great actors in it, and I went more not for the storyline, but I went more for seeing the actors when I went to see it, and I just loved seeing the playfulness of Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet together. That's really why I went to see the movie. It was the acting. It's
definitely one of those movies where I appreciate it, but I don't really want to see it again because it's so sad. But it's got a sweet ending at the end of the day, and without spoiling it, it really does.
I think there's a famous British actor in it.
Let me see if I can briefly look it up.
He's that tall British actor. This is all from my memory.
Yeah, speaking of which.
I think he recently died. This famous British actor.
Let me see. But Jim Carrey was a really standout person in the first place.
Tom Wilkinson.
Jim Carrey really stood out because it was his first, I would say it's his first very serious role that people took him seriously in. So there was something that I saw that really interested me. The original choice wasn't going to be Jim Carrey. It was actually going to be Nicolas Cage
he would have been over the top.
He probably would have been, but I think he would have definitely tried to look serious. But, same thing with Jim Carrey, though. He's got such a funny face, too. But
That's not what I mean. But it was really intriguing movie. Totally different from any film I'd ever seen.
In the original choice to play Clementine, who was Kate Winslet's character, that was going to be a woman named, I think her stage name is Björk. She's an Icelandic singer.
Oh, she's known for being very weird.
Well, I don't really know anything about her except her name's Björk.
Okay, well, there's a lot that you need to look her up.
No problem. Also, they were talking to Winona Ryder about playing the role. I think she would have been a good pick as well to play this Clementine character.
I haven't thought about that. I'm just thinking about the film. I'm not thinking about other people to play them.
For sure.
It's woulda, coulda, shoulda. I would rather just talk about the film that's in itself. But I'd like to move on to...
Sure. Let's talk about our next film. That film is Liar, Liar. It was released on March 21st, 1997. It's about a lawyer who is forced to tell the truth against his will after his son makes a wish for him to stop lying for an entire day. Full disclosure, we both love this movie. This was one of the best Jim Carrey movies he's ever put out. I love Jim Carrey, and you love Jim Carrey too.
But I think it's about a father who's a single parent. It's a single mother who's divorced from the father, and the father never shows up.
Yeah, keeps making excuses.
Okay, and he's a really busy attorney, and he never shows up. And so the little boy wishes that his father would quit lying and about coming to visit him and seeing him.
And this is a particular lawyer who he lies all the time, even to try to mitigate things in a way where he's able to have a great job as a lawyer. He's a very successful lawyer. But yeah, they were separated. I don't think they were divorced. I think they were separated.
No, they were divorced.
I could have sworn they were.
No, they were divorced.
Well, regardless, it was great to be able to... This movie is so funny. If you haven't seen it, you absolutely should. We've seen it several times. Do you have any memories of seeing it in a movie?
Oh, yes. Theater? Oh, yes. And when I went to see it, I saw it with my sister Roxy. And she said, that's going to be you and Sword one day. And she said it was
a little bit
too close for comfort.
Too close for comfort, to say the least.
Yes.
Well.
And then we were still together, but we were having problems at the time.
Yeah, and it was 1997, so it's around that same time frame.
And I was like, stop saying that. And she said, that's little Sword wishing his daddy would come and see. And I said, stop saying So, the film is absolutely incredible, and Jim Carrey, the way he came across was incredible.
It did really well. It made $300 million in the box office, and that's kind of unheard of for a comedy, especially a live-action comedy like that.
I still remember lines from it where he says, "I'm kicking my ass."
We were so on the fence about seeing this movie again because getting an older perspective of it. But we've already seen it a couple times. We could see it in passing.
A couple times we've seen it. We watch it if it's on TV every time. We turn it on and we still watch it because it makes us laugh so hard.
I love the scene when he gets pulled over and the officer asks him, "Do you know what I'm pulling you over for?" And he mentions like 7, 8, 10 things that he did. I was speeding. I was doing this, and I was. I forgot to turn my turn signal on.
And then he says, when people ask him, like when he's in the elevator, right. And he had farted.
Right. That's right.
It was me.
Because he's forced to tell the truth.
He's forced to tell the truth.
He has, and even if it's something that he wants to keep to himself, he has no choice but to tell the truth. And it's such a funny idea. It's such a simple Freaky Friday-like idea that it just came out perfectly because Jim Carrey was so good at it. One fun fact that I thought was really interesting was that originally they were talking to Tom Hanks and Steve Martin to play the role that Jim Carrey ended up taking over. Both of them would have been, I think, good, especially Steve Martin.
Good. But not great. Not like him.
I think it would have been great. I really think that they would have done a great job playing it.
Not like him.
However, there was one person who really, really wanted the role, and it was Hugh Grant. Apparently, he really wanted to do the role.
He would have been too pompous.
But I think
this pen is blue. It's not red.
But he really wanted to, because I think it was his chance to be able to try to like American comedy. But,
I fought it.
But the reason
I fought it in the elevator.
But you know what's really funny is that the reason why he ended up not being in the role is because he got involved in his scandal.
Oh, with the prostitute.
Divine Brown. And the Divine
Isn't
Brown
that
scandal.
divine?
Yes, isn't that divine? That's the reason why he ended up not doing it, because it was such a huge situation that he backed out in order to save himself.
Well, it saved Jim Carrey's because he was incredible.
He was. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
The next film we have is Losing Isaiah. It was released on March 17th, 1995. It's about a woman who adopts a child from a crack addict. But after she gets rehabilitated, she wants her child back. It was a very simple film that it got a lot of attention from how you've described it to me over the years. So what do you remember about the film when it initially came out?
The film made a huge impact. I think it was a TV movie. It wasn't released in the theaters.
It was. It was released in theaters.
It was?
Because it actually had a box office numbers to go about it too. It may not have been released in a huge margin, but it was released in theaters.
Because I saw it on TV, and Roxy...
It was filmed...
My sister Roxy made sure that I saw that film, and Jessica Lange, and it was Halle Berry, and it was incredible.
But it was such a simple film. Like, why did it get so much attention?
Because of the message about the difference between a mother and a biological, adopted mother and a biological mother, and the question of who has rights over this child. And a mother threw away her child, and a mother took on the child. And I think Jessica Lange ended up being like a nurse and took this child on.
Jessica Lange was the adopted mother.
Yes, yeah. And I think she was the nurse, and nobody wanted that child. And he was a crackhead baby, so he was addicted to crack. But Jessica Lange took on the baby and raised it as her own, and her husband too, and they loved that child. It's just an incredible movie. It was based on, I think, on a true story.
Did people around you talk about the movie after it came out in theaters, or do you remember?
It didn't come out in. No, if it came out in theaters, it probably was New York and Los Angeles and Chicago. So big,
very small,
major
releases.
But major releases in big cities that nobody, not here in Florida. It didn't come out, maybe, and then it was gone. And then it came out on the TV, and then that's when it made an impact.
So did people talk about it when it came out on TV?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did, and it was a big talked about in the media, and then how, how do you feel? Should she have kept the baby? Was it wrong? What happened? It was a big deal.
Needless to say, it probably caused a couple of family arguments over Thanksgiving that year. May have.
No. It made people closer. It made people closer about the. It really made people closer. But it was terrible how they did the division and when she had to pick up Isaiah. Mm. About how they should have done that when they picked up the baby. It
was very morose. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And he was screaming. He was screaming and screaming and screaming for his mother.
It was terrible. Anyway, the budget for the film was $16 million. And that stood out to me because the box office numbers, when they did, I guess, this limited release, it ended up being $7.6 million. So it did not do well in theaters. It probably did great in the home box office, the home video market itself. But it does reflect pretty well on if it was released, it wasn't released that much because it really didn't do that well.
I don't know if it won Emmys or anything because it was out on TV. That's where I saw it. I didn't see it. I didn't even know it was released in theaters.
So with it, I don't believe it really got that many awards, but I just remember it was a big film that we saw. You wanted me to see it very badly. No, it didn't have any accolades or anything.
That's the shame because it's like the doll maker for Jane Fonda. That was one of my best roles that she ever did.
I mean, it just goes to show that there's some great films out there that end up never getting talked about, and that's just how the industry can be sometimes. Next up is a film that was actually pretty successful, but also is not talked about that much anymore at all. It's The Paper. It was directed by Ron Howard. It was released, let me double check the dates. I forgot to put that down over here. It was released on March 18th, 1994, and it's directed by Ron Howard. It's about a news story that comes to life in a 24-hour period. It's some kind of big murder scandal with New York City. And I never saw the film. It kind of shows with how little I know really about the full plot, and we didn't have a chance to really see it this week. But had a big star-studded cast: Michael Keaton, Glenn Close, Marissa Tomei, Robert Duvall, and Randy Quaid. This was big stars. And Ron Howard directed it, which he's already huge. And
he wasn't he wasn't that big a director then.
He was up and coming for sure.
He was up and coming, but he wasn't like... He was up and coming.
Now, what really stood out to me is that this was directed by Ron, but what really stood out was that it was directed by the Koch brothers. And what I mean is that David Koch, who wrote several of the Jurassic Park films, he was the co-writer for the original Jurassic Park. The other writer was Michael Crichton, the original author of the books. And David Koch wrote several of the Jurassic Park films afterward. Were they good? That depends. He's been involved in the Jurassic Park film franchise, but it's had middling success since the first film. I mean, obviously it's been box office successful, but critical reception, it really varies on a lot of things. Personally, my feelings about David Koch have gone downhill as the years go by, because he did such a... I don't want to blame him, but at the same time, he's partially responsible for it. He did such a terrible job with the Jurassic World sequels. The first film was great, Jurassic World, but the Fallen Kingdom and Dominion were so underwhelming. I mean, I need to see Dominion again. I liked it a little bit better than I did Fallen Kingdom, but Fallen Kingdom was terrible. The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and I'm going on a tangent. God, I just love Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I know. I see that.
The Lost World, I did not like it at all, even though people liked it. I have a guilt. Like I can like it, but I skip it every time I have a chance to see that film.
But The Paper, let's get back to The Paper.
Yeah, but the Paper was written by the Koch brothers.
I didn't see it. I don't know anything about it.
I
don't remember it coming out, but I was busy about to have you.
yeah, a couple months before, so it was a little bit too much time. But this was a star-studded cast. Like, these were some of the very, very popular people in the 90s, and nobody talks about it. And that kind of surprises me, because this could have been like a big Academy Award hit and only received one nomination. That was for Best Original Song, which is practically taken away from any film that you have Best Original Song for.
I don't know anything about it.
Exactly.
Don't remember it coming out. Don't remember anything.
No problem. So I just wanted to mention it, though, because it was kind of a big deal.
But that's the same year that Forrest Gump came out.
That's true. And we'll talk about Forrest Gump when we get to...
I know, but I'm just saying that's probably... Nothing could overcome Forrest Gump.
Now, for the opposite approach, let's go into a film that got a lot of attention. Basic Instinct. Released on March 20th, 1992. It was described as an erotic thriller about a murder and sex scandal starring Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone.
Well, we all know why it was...
Well, in case anybody doesn't know why, the film is truly known for an infamous scene where Sharon Stone crosses her legs in a very...
Uncrosses her legs.
Yes, she uncrosses. Well, what she does, she's already crossed, and then she uncrosses
them. She uncrosses her legs and shows her Pikachu.
Yes, the best way to describe that is a yellow mouse.
No, her Pikachu.
So this, obviously, I've seen the scene. Who hasn't seen the scene? As a film aficionado, if you will. But I never saw the movie full up. I love Michael Douglas. I haven't had the chance to really see the film itself. But, I mean, the film scene is famous. I mean, they talk about it in film school because the way they put it up and everything. And it came to the point where they released a sequel called Basic Instinct 2. And the poster is essentially recreating that scene in a whole new, fresh light. And that just shows that, obviously, they knew they made a big hit with that scene itself. So my question to you is, it came out in 92. It was before I was born, years before I was conceived. So, do you remember people talking about that?
Oh, yes.
Scene?
Everybody in the friggin' world was talking about Basic Instinct, and everybody was going to go see that movie with their date, with their hot person, and they were going to go and have their Basic Instinct moment. and it was not that big a deal.
No, it was so minute, but that's why people wanted to go see it, because they want to see it over and over and over again.
Well, no, they just wanted to say, I went and saw Basic Instinct. Because Michael Douglas, before that, the film, was Fatal Attraction, okay? Mm-hmm. And Fatal Attraction was a big deal. So,
listen, that was Glenn Close.
Yes.
And was it with Michael Douglas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so, and he had a lot of sex scenes with Glenn Close. So they wanted to go see Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone. It was a big deal to go see this film. So he was known to have all these... And he had another movie with Demi Moore.
Disclosure, I think.
Yes,
yep.
He was being sexually harassed.
See, that was also written by Michael Crichton. And I love that book. I thought it was a fantastic book.
So it was just a big deal you've got to go see Basic Instinct with your date and have a date night with Basic Instinct. It was a big deal. So
gotcha. So next up we have Victor Victoria. It was released on March 19th, 1982. It's so celebrating a big anniversary. Really is coming up pretty soon too.
I love that movie.
It stars Julie Andrews and James Garner. It's about an actress who disguises herself as a man in order to get a fair shot at stardom.
In Paris.
In Paris too, and that was kind of.
It's a Blake Edwards film, and she was married to Blake Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Andrews.
A little bit of nepotism, is that word, or is it really favoritism?
No. She was known to. He brought out her sexuality because she was known as Mary Poppins and that other Sound of Music. So she was always so considered not to be considered a sexual being until he helped her come out as a vital, beautiful woman, sexual woman.
Did people talk about it that much when it came out in theaters?
Yes, because that was a big deal. That she was playing a transgender person when she was really a woman. It was quite...
This was before Tootsie, right?
Yes.
So Tootsie was with Dustin Hoffman,
yes.
and the roles were reversed, where to get a great role, he ended up playing as a woman, pretending to be a woman. It's like Mrs. Doubtfire. Before Mrs. Doubtfire was the thing.
And that he won, I think. I think Dustin Hoffman won for that role.
Yeah, I think he got
and so did Jessica Lange. Terry Garr was also nominated, too.
It was very well done. I've seen...
She might have won. Terry Garr might have won.
Well, with Victor Victoria, I liked it. I thought it was a fine movie. I say this funny because I'm a big theater person. I have a 4-year degree in theater, and this seems like it'd be right up my alley. I liked it. I thought it was fine. I didn't really have an opinion of it. I thought it was a fine movie. It just didn't hit me the way that probably hit you, for example.
It was incredibly done. For 1982... That movie was ahead of its time.
And that's something that
ahead of its time.
I'm glad that you can acknowledge that and appreciate it in a way that I can't, because it was before my time, and there's some films I love that came out in the 60s, 70s, 80s. You know what I'm talking about. But, I'm glad that you have the appreciation that I simply don't for it too, which is why we're doing this in the first place.
This movie was way ahead of its time.
So there's another anniversary for a film that came out this week. It was The Man Who Fell to Earth. And I already asked you about this before we recorded it, if you remember seeing it.
I did not see it.
No memories of it whatsoever. It's celebrating its 49th anniversary. And so it's perfectly fine. You've never seen it.
I just remembered it was a sci-fi film and David Bowie was in it.
It was actually David Bowie's first film. And he happened to have starred in it as well. So this movie kind of kicked off his film career. But I know, we all know that David Bowie would have done successfully even if he had not seen it.
I never thought of that being his first film, because David Bowie was always doing, before MTV was on TV, David Bowie was always doing videos.
Mm-hmm. And they were very successful, excellent sci-fi focused videos.
He was always doing videos, and so I never felt that this was his first film or video, because he was always doing filming. He was always on TV. David Bowie was so advanced before most people.
Yeah, and he's always been an actor before film. So I'm glad that he's able to do this in the first place. But I do want to acknowledge it, even though we've never seen it and you don't have any memories of it. We do want to acknowledge that it is celebrating its 49th year. Next year is going to be 50. So maybe next year we'll see it when the week happens again next year. Maybe it'll be a chance for us to see it and see if it's celebrating 50 years.
Or maybe we'll do it when it's David Bowie's birthday week or something.
Maybe. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So that goes over most of the films, and now we're going to take a deep dive into the 2 films that we actually saw this week to get a fresh perspective. The first one that stood out to me was Little Nikita. It was released on March 18th, 1988. The reason why I picked this film is because I know you love River Phoenix, and I love Sidney Poitier, and you love Sidney Poitier too. But we both love these actors, and I wanted to see more of River Phoenix anyway. I thought, this sounds interesting, let's check it out. So it was directed by Richard Benjamin. Richard Benjamin directed Catch-22, which is a film I've always wanted to see. I know it's one of the greatest films of all time when it comes to the messaging and what it's about, what it represents, sort of like V for Vendetta in its own way. But he also directed The Money Pit, and we both love The Money Pit.
I love The Money Pit.
It's an excellent, such a funny movie. I mean, you've got to see it.
Shelley, what's her name?
Duvall, I think? No, not Shelley Duvall.
Long.
Shelley Long, that's right. And that was a great film. It was also, Little Nikita was written by Bo Goldman and John Hill. Now, Bo Goldman, he was one of the writers of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And he's one of the greatest films of all time. And John Hill did a couple of films, but one that really stood out to me was Andy Kaufman's last film. He wrote, called Heart Beeps. It's starring Andy Kaufman and Bernadette Peters, and it's kind of strange. It's a sci-fi film about robots and what it means to be human. I don't really know much at all about it.
Never saw it.
I just know
Never even heard of it till you talked about it.
I thought it was interesting, though, that it's his last film, and they describe it as a romantic comedy and science fiction about 2 robots who fall in love and decide to strike out on their own. And I thought that's interesting, to say the least, about this film. So Little Nikita, do you want to describe what the plot's about?
No, you go ahead.
So it's about this not little kid, he's like, 16, I want to say? 18. And he just turned 18, River Phoenix, and he ends up he wants to join the Air Force, and he ends up being involved in a serious conspiracy where he finds out that his parents are actually Russian or USSR Soviet agents. Sleeper agents, that's how they describe it. Sidney Poitier is the one who finds out this information. He is an FBI agent who finds out that the passport dates and the birth dates of his parents, turns out that they're falsified.
River Phoenix's character's parents end up being falsified because the date of their death is before the film came out, so they're technically dead. So how are they alive? How do they have this business that they own this garden center? So Sidney Poitier ends up investigating them, and he gets involved with the kid by getting him not accidentally, but telling him, hey, you got to spy on your parents for me. It's very interesting. I'm not describing it in the best way. You just got to see it for yourself. It's very intriguing, and it's a very typical, standard Cold War-esque spy movie film that I was very surprised with how it went. It's also kind of cookie cutter because you kind of end up knowing what happens. I'd be surprised if the ending didn't end the way that it did in the first place. It ended exactly as I would have expected it to have ended, but I enjoyed it for the most part. What about you? I was disappointed in it. There were better films in 1988 than that, and I was very disappointed. It reminded me of Naked Gun, making fun of these kind of films.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when you look at 1988, the top 10 films that came out that year, Naked Gun was number 8.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Is it?
I didn't know that.
So it looks like you were on the right part with this. It actually came out. It was the 8th most popular film in terms of box office revenue of that year.
Well, they were right on the money.
Yes, they were. Absolutely.
Right on the money.
There was a few funny moments in here. I mean, we made fun of it. There's a lot of Naked Gun kind of similar moments in it.
It was so much like a Naked Gun. It was like Naked Gun saw that movie.
I mean,
made fun of it.
And I made jokes that, like, Sidney Poitier, the way he was talking to River and the way he was looking at River made me think that, is he attracted to this kid?
No, he did not. He did not.
I thought it was just kind of funny, okay? No. There was some moments that got to me. So it shows also with how well it ended up doing, which didn't do well at all. The budget was $15 million. It made $1.7 million in the box office.
it looked like a TV movie.
It absolutely flopped.
And it had terrible music. But the best thing about the movie was the acting.
It was great. I mean, Sidney Poitier was great. He really was.
River Phoenix was incredible.
He was awesome. I mean,
he was absolute. Even the parents were great actors. Okay, the guy that we made fun of, saying that he looked like Vince Neil. He didn't really look like. He looked like an old Vince Neil. Mm-hmm. He looked like Vince Neil's grandfather or something from Motley Crue. They really went all out in the acting. They really put forth so much effort in that film for the acting.
It really was a great acted film. And that just shows you that just because the film, it was mediocre, I would say, when it comes to the way it was filmed and written and everything, but the acting was really excellent. I mean, you felt for Sidney Poitier, especially in those tense moments where he's running around and trying to make sure the parents are safe, because even though they're sleeper agents, they're at the end of the day, they're sleeper agents. They kind of can't help themselves in its own way, and he does genuinely care about River's well-being, his character's well-being.
Sidney Poitier grabbed the truck. That was not a stuntman.
Yes.
That was Sidney Poitier.
So there was a scene where the parents were trying to run off to go save their son, without spoiling the movie, and Sidney Poitier grabs the truck as they're driving off, and he holds on to it.
His legs are in the dirt.
Yeah, they're dangling against the road as they're driving off.
It was not a stuntman.
You
could tell.
That was really him.
But there was editing problems.
There were
editing problems that they did not coincide. You could tell. But so they had editing problems. But overall, the acting was impeccable. Mm-hmm. And River Phoenix was fairly new. It was 2 years made after Stand By Me came out.
Yes, it came out a couple years after Stand By Me was released, and it was really...
And after I saw Stand By Me, I fell in love with River Phoenix. I almost named you Phoenix because of River Phoenix. And I met River Phoenix at a bar in Gainesville, Cover Dish. He had a band, and he lived in Micanopy with his family. So he was always in the Gainesville market, walking around with his band, and his band would play locally, and he was around all the time. So, and I went up to him and I said one night, "You're River Phoenix," and he said, and he just looked at me. He just nodded, yeah. So I really loved River Phoenix. I loved his acting. I loved the way he was. I loved his band. It's just a shame what happened to him.
Yeah, it really was.
He died within 5 years of making that movie. Mm-hmm. Short-lived. He died on October 31st, 1993.
When Joaquin Phoenix won his Best Actor for Joker, and was talking about River, you can't help but get teary-eyed reading about it, because that was his moment to be able to really bask in it, because he didn't. Look, the movie was great because Joaquin was so great in it, but he used that time when he won that award to mention his brother, and it just shows how much he loved him and cared about him, and he still does, I'm sure. And
he knows it's his brother. It was incredible.
I think he probably feels a lot of regret about it, about wanting to try and do more to save him and whatnot, but
he was a kid.
Yeah,
I don't know what difference in ages, but he was younger than.
But you could just tell how morose he still is about it and everything, and that just shows real character. That's something that I really appreciated when Joaquin won that award, and he pretty much dedicated it to River. This is a way of saying, I love you, brother. So, moving to the film itself, so do you have any memories of the film when it actually came out?
I remember that when it came out, but I remember other films that River was in that I liked more, and I wasn't impressed with it when it came out then, but every time I made an effort to see River Phoenix's films, because I loved River Phoenix, because he was so well. I looked up. I knew he was going to be a great actor, and he was going to make it as an incredible actor, like Jared. I had that feeling about him, like Jared. So I knew he was going to be an incredible actor. He was going to be an Academy Award winner. I knew that. I felt that from him.
Did anybody talk about the movie when it came out?
No. No, it wasn't like that. It was considered like bleh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not. But I knew his act. They talked about his acting in it, but and Sidney Poitier's. But that was it. I remember that.
Well, some of the biggest films that came out that year, we mentioned Naked Gun. That was number 8, though. The top 3 films that came out that year were as follows. Number 3 was Coming to America.
Well, that film was slam dunk.
It's one
that
of the,
was a slam dunk.
One of the best films. One of the best comedies of all time. One of the best comedies of all time.
But not everybody liked that movie. My family, though, we loved that movie. But not everybody got that movie. Mm-hmm. Okay?
It's very much...
That was a slam...
It takes a certain kind of person to be able to really appreciate it. Because it is not for everybody. But
No, but at that time, but it was a slam dunk for us.
I consider it a romantic comedy. I don't like romantic comedies. Not really. But I'll say, I love Coming to America. And I love the romance. I love the family aspect of it. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, they were just killer. That was, to us, it's like another Spinal Tap to us. Mm-hmm.
It's a cult classic.
Absolutely.
We love that movie.
The number 2 highest grossing film of 1988 was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And we'll talk about these movies when they eventually come.
That was a big blockbuster. I wasn't that engrossed in it, but all over America was. They loved that movie.
Now, in a full disclosure, I haven't seen the movie in, I want to say, at least a decade. But I would say, though, I remember the movie very vividly, and for the time, it was big time. That's what made it a big deal, is because it's a film that you would never have thought to have ever seen in that time when it came out. It was such a huge hit. It deserved to be because nobody ever would have thought a film like that could have come out, let alone be as successful as it was. So I give it a lot of props. I like the film quite a bit. I may not like it as much if I see it again.
I didn't see it in the theater. I didn't see it for many, many years later. And then I thought, I should have appreciated it more.
Well, I really do applaud it for what it did, and I think it's still a good film. I just haven't seen it in so long, I need to see it with fresh eyes again. The other film, the number 1 film that came out that year, highest grossing, was Rain Man. And we know all about Rain Man.
I saw another one that you didn't mention.
So,
Big.
I looked at the top 3. Big was number 4.
Big was huge.
Yep. Big, starring Tom Hanks.
Huge. You have another Die Hard. Oh my God.
Well, I'm not talking about the top 10. I'm talking about the top 3.
But see, Die Hard was even bigger than you were saying.
Just the top 10 were Rain Man.
There's too many. Yeah, there's too many.
Well, let me
Beetlejuice.
I'm going to read them real quick. So number 1 was Rain Man. Number 2 is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Number 3 is Coming to America. Number 4 was Big. Number 5 was Twins, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. Number 6 is Crocodile Dundee 2, which I've never seen the Crocodile Dundee movies. Not really. I've seen clips and never seen them.
Well loved.
I know. Eventually, I'll get to them. Number 7's Die Hard. It's Die Hard. It's incredible. Number 8, The Naked Gun. That was the first one. Number 9's Cocktail. Never heard of it. Number 10 in Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, it's awesome. It's one of the best films, too, that came out that year, let alone the last decade of the 80s itself. So, it was a very, very big year for movies. So, Little Nikita making not that much in the box office, I'm not surprised at all. But finally, what would you give it stars-wise? Out of 5 stars, what would you give Little Nikita right now?
2.
I give it...
And maybe a 3 just for the... 2. No, 2. And then I'm only giving that because of the acting.
I give it a 2.5. I did like the acting quite a bit. I could see it again. I base my star rating off of would I see it again? And would I want to really enjoy it again? No. I could see it one more time.
Just for River Phoenix, just for how wonderful he was. Yeah. And Sidney Poitier.
They had great chemistry with each other. Really great chemistry. I really enjoyed it all around. So, glad we had a chance to talk about this movie. Next up is the second film that we both saw this week, The China Syndrome. It was released on March 16th, 1979. It was directed by James Bridges, who did The Paper Chase. And Paper Chase, I really know nothing about the film. But you remember it was a big deal, right?
Yeah, I remember it was.
It was written also by Bridges, but it was also co-written by Mike Gray and T.S. Cook. Mike Gray, he's done some stuff. From what he's really known for is that he did a lot of political documentaries and activist-focused documentaries. And T.S. Cook did The Paper Chase. So there already kind of was a collaboration in the first place. Would you like to describe what the China Syndrome is about?
No, it's too complicated. I'd have to read something to say. It's too complicated.
It's okay. So, we just saw it. Long story short, it's about a news reporting crew who go to a nuclear power plant, and while they're just doing a regular feature talking about the plant because it's just nearby in town, suddenly an accident happens that nearly causes the plant to, not the word overheat, but it causes a serious incident that they prevented what could have been a disaster.
It's in Los Angeles.
And it's in Los Angeles. And they filmed it secretly, and they want to release it as a news story because it looks pretty
Michael
severe.
Douglas' character films. He's the cameraman.
Right. So it's starring Jane Fonda as the reporter, Michael Douglas is the cameraman, and then Jack Lemmon. He plays the supervisor of the plant when the accident happens. The near miss accident occurs. And it was I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an excellent film, excellently well made. It was very activist based and
politically activist based.
That's what you could tell, especially by the writing with Mike Gray after I looked it up later. It's like, this makes a lot of sense because that film was made specifically, you could tell it was clearly made to
make a message.
To send a message out about the dangers of nuclear power. And it really was a great film. I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I think that it kind of goes a little bit too long for its own good. But in general, though, I think it was an awesome film. I really enjoyed it, and it was very gripping and intense. Do you remember anything about it when it came out?
Yes. So I remember that Danny, my oldest brother Danny, wanted to see the film not just because Jane Fonda was in it, but because it was about nuclear power, and he wanted to know what this message was about. And you were showing me that they had a poster.
Yes.
And the poster says, which was very intriguing, it says, "Today only a handful of people know what it means, ... Soon you will know." So it was very teasing.
That's such a great, very classic 70s thing. I've seen so many advertising gimmicks and things from the 80s and 90s because I studied advertising, and you did too. I mean, you studied it during that time. But I studied advertising in college. It was one of the things that I did. And, I remember so many commercials that focus on those. You will find out when you go in theaters.
So tell them what the China Syndrome means.
So the China Syndrome it's a myth. It is a myth that if a nuclear power plant completely goes DEFCON 1, complete meltdown, destruction, unheard of, if it completely collapses, the energy of the power plant will go so deep into the Earth's crust that it will drill through the Earth and go to China.
It's so powerful.
Yes.
And so destructive.
Mm-hmm. It's the fictional result of this horrible nuclear meltdown. And it's not exactly true, but so scientists have talked about this, nuclear physicists have said that is impossible. It is literally impossible because the Earth's crust is so thick and dense. The opportunity for a nuclear power, no matter how powerful it is, to reach the Earth's crust at the very cusp.
How could you go through the core?
Impossible. We cannot fathom something that powerful that could actually break through the crust. Because as you know, our Earth's core is how many millions of nuclear bombs that are being done to the second every second and being used, let alone the sun. So it's never going to happen. However, the threat of nuclear accidents is real because several years later, Chernobyl happened in 1986.
And you thought Chernobyl happened before this.
For a second, I thought it was in the 70s.
And I said no. I said Chernobyl hadn't happened.
So here's something interesting about, speaking of memories with the film. So I find out about this, and this was on Wikipedia's website, and I thought it was really interesting. The film was criticized by the nuclear power industry as a simple fear-mongering and that there was little to no realism at all with this film. This would never have happened. 12 days after the film was released, The 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant had an accident.
That's right.
It resulted in dangerous radioactive gas being released into the atmosphere.
That's right. 3 Mile, and that was in the East Coast.
Yes, that was in Pennsylvania.
That was on the East Coast.
So this actually happened.
Yes.
And it was 12 days after the film came out.
Yes, on the East Coast.
So the accident had several factors. There were several things that went wrong.
I just got chill bumps.
So there were several things that went wrong. But one of the things that did go wrong was that there was a broken relief valve. And that's similar to what happened in the movie. Because in the movie, they had a leak in one of their safety valves right below the actual core of the power plant.
That's right. But I didn't get to finish about my memory. My memory is that Danny wanted to see James.
Danny was your oldest brother.
Yes, I just said that.
Okay.
So he wanted to see James Fonda, but he really wanted to see how they just talked about nuclear power and how dangerous nuclear power was. So, because he was a big political activist. Danny, since I was little, was involved with Robert Kennedy's politicalness, and Robert Kennedy got killed in 1967. I remember that when I was 4 years old. Danny was saddened by John Kennedy being killed in 1963 and Martin Luther King. Danny was one of the most politically active people I've ever known. And he was for Jimmy Carter. And so when I saw this movie with him and Pam, his wife, and my sister Roxy, and a bunch of people, we went and saw this together. And at the time, my dad, because we saw it like in the summer, we didn't see it when it was first released. Lake City didn't get films right when it was released. My dad was getting ill at the time with cancer. And I remember Danny talking about that you can get ill from all these power plants. We don't know what the effect that they're going to have on people's health.
Right, the radiation and everything.
And at the end of this film, they show people with... And Danny didn't like microwaves. And they showed...
A commercial for microwave ovens.
Microwave ovens! And Danny said, see, I told you. See, I told you. And I remember that so well. And that was 46 years ago.
46 years ago.
And there's a scene where, and I never said this to you, there's a scene where Jacqueline is supposed to have this great scene at the end where he's talking about why he was supposed to talk to the media and talk to the to the
news reporters,
to not just news reporters,
but to the world.
To the world. I was only 16. I wasn't even 16 yet. I just turned 16. I remember thinking, this is unbelievable. What he's saying and how he's saying it. It was not done well. I was making like a criticism of it. And when I saw it again the other night, last night, was it last night or the night before last?
I think it was.
Not before last.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I thought, this is unbelievable. It's not done well.
Well, actually, I hate to disagree with you, but I think that the way he reacted to the cameras and he got so nervous, I thought it was very realistic to how somebody who's not used to cameras looking at him, and the situation's very intense.
It's not that. It's the way the wording of it. I think that the impact that he said things to her in that bar was better. Mm-hmm. And he had already discussed it with her. He was a great speaker. He was a great man. He would have worded it better.
Well, I think things change when you have a camera looking down at you, and that it hits him that he's talking to the town. He's talking to anybody who can see with a TV what's going on. And he's not only scared of, basic fear of public speaking, but also the situation. He had her at gunpoint at one point because he's holding this place hostage. He knows at any second that people are going to... I was another thing I didn't think was believable. It wasn't believable. Mm-hmm. You and I both agreed on that. No, I agree with that. I'm just trying to finish that. I think that his nervousness was very realistic. It reminded me...
Oh, of course he should be nervous. But, I don't know, it just seemed... there's something didn't...
Well, when I say him being nervous, I mean, like, his words, like, him fumbling what he wanted to say. Of course, in the bar scene, it's different because...
No, but that's not what I'm saying. The way things were worded and everything, I think there would have been something better.
I just think he did fine. I think it was perfectly acceptable for what happened. I think his wording was perfectly fine because it was the situation at hand. I thought it was ridiculous that he was able to hold the place hostage. I thought it would have made more sense if instead they'd gone to his home, but then the people were following him, like the hitmen essentially were following him to his house. I thought that would have made more sense.
Okay.
Instead of being in the power plant. But it was still a great ending. I mean, very enjoyable, and I thought it was an excellent film. I actually forgot to tell you. Yeah, I told you I would give it 2.5 for little Nikita. But what would you give star-wise for this film?
I told you that the other night.
But what do you... This is the podcast now. We didn't record it yet. So what would you give it out of 5 stars?
4. And the only reason being is that... there were some things that didn't add up, and there were editing issues in that movie too. There were editing problems in that movie too. The car scenes of them following him were incredible, and that bar scene where he was talking to Jane Fonda directly was incredible. And there was one thing that I have to mention. They show the sexism that she allowed, which I was shocked by in 1979, and they said, "Don't worry, your pretty little head" to her.
They called her sweetheart too.
But and then Michael Douglas hit her on the butt.
Oh yeah, Michael Douglas in the film early on, he slapped her ass.
Yes.
As it's true.
But I said hit her on the butt.
Yeah.
But anyway. She allowed that because she knew that was showing, and she was trying so hard to get better. It reminds me of Jim Carrey later, and when he was playing
Bruce Almighty.
Yeah. And she wanted to get hard-hitting stories, and they would only let her have sweet, cute little stories.
Wait.
She was a woman.
I don't remember the Bruce Almighty. Oh, I remember her now. Was it not Jennifer Love Hewitt? It was somebody else.
No, but he was getting only cookie crumbled little stories, and he wanted hard-hitting stories, and they gave him to Steve Carell.
I see what you mean.
Okay, but she wanted really hard-hitting stories, and they wouldn't let her have them because she was a woman.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and the owner of the TV station said, "Don't worry, your pretty little head. We're going to handle this."
Mm-hmm.
And she had to kiss up to the boss in this China syndrome because she was cute, pretty little. I like your hair like that. Keep your hair like that. There was such sexism going on. It was, and she allowed it. And Jane Fonda wanted to allow that.
Yeah, because, and she said it great in the film too, is that I have a job, I want to keep my job. And I know that if I want to change things, I can't change them from outside my job, I have to change them internally. Which was great. One thing I also want to mention too is that this movie was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Actor, which was Jack Lemmon, Best Actress with Jane Fonda, Best Screenplay, and Best Art Direction. Guess which one? Can you guess on which one actually won an Academy Award?
Well, I don't remember, so I don't know.
Not a single one.
Oh,
didn't win anything. I just thought it was interesting to point out.
So what other films were in that year?
Now, with films that came out that year, the top 10 were Kramer versus Kramer. Number 2 was the Amityville Horror, which I love that film. I thought it was an excellent film. I love the Amityville Horror, like the conspiracy, the story in general. That's for another time. But it was an incredible film. Rocky 2 was number 3, which was great. Star Trek, the motion picture, and that was a huge deal.
That movie, everybody... I remember going to go see that movie later that year. It came out around Thanksgiving. It's
funny, though, because the next, I would say the more impactful film that came out was number 5, right below, which is Alien.
I can't believe... See, when you said what year those came out earlier today, I said, I can't believe you didn't mention Alien. Because Alien was... I remember going to see that film. Oh, my gosh.
I remember the first time I saw Alien. I can't wait.
And Apocalypse Now. I was going to say, why didn't you mention Apocalypse Now?
Number 6, Apocalypse Now. Number 7 is 10.
What a great film.
Number 8 is The Jerk.
The Jerk.
I mean, it's a fantastic film. It's absolutely hilarious. Number 9 is Moonraker.
That's a James Bond movie.
Oh, I had no idea.
James Bond movie.
Number 10 is The Muppet Movie, which I didn't see that one either. But there's a few that I love. I mean, Alien's fantastic. It's one of the best of all time.
I've seen every one of those, and I saw them all in the theater initially.
So you are part of the box office revenue.
Absolutely. And some of those I saw more than once because they were so great.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So that was also a decent year for film in the
Kramer
first
versus
place.
Kramer took off with most of those.
Mm-hmm.
It was so well loved.
So it had a big competition. So China Syndrome, though, even though people don't talk about it that much, I thought it was, I really enjoyed it. I would also give it 4 stars. I thought it was perfectly fine for what it was, and it had a great message behind it, a great ending.
It really won because look at how much it made. Talk about the money it made.
So with the China Syndrome, it had a budget of, what was it, $5 million? $5.9 million. The box office was $51.7 million.
So it won, okay?
So it did fine.
It won.
It did perfectly fine.
It won. It won. It won. It won. It had a profit of $46 million.
Essentially, it was, $46 million.
$46
So that was a great film, a great hit. If you hear some panting in the background, it's our dog Gloria. She's 6 years old now, and she's very excited, very happy to be here. So
she says it won. It won.
Yes, it did. So that was it. We have gone over all the films that we really wanted to talk about that came out this week, and we're going to do this on a weekly basis where we'll be talking about films that have an anniversary. So thank you all so much. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say or mention to our potential audience?
Well, I would like to say one other thing. Jack Lemmon was adored by most of my family members, particularly my brother Davey, my mother, even my father. He was well respected in my family. Mm-hmm. My memories of Jack Lemmon for decades. He was respected as an actor. So I just want to mention that. Davey might have even gone to see China Syndrome. I'd have to ask him.
Davey's your second oldest brother.
Yeah. So he might have gone to see that movie in the theaters, but he may not remember. But I remember it distinctly. It was a big deal because I wanted to go see that movie. And sometimes I'd sneak out with the older brothers and sisters, and I could get in with them because it was rated R, and if you're with someone older than 17...
Which is still the case now. That you can
get in. Yeah,
if you're younger than 17 still.
And I knew some of the people that owned the theater and managed the theater, so they'd let me in. But I do want to mention this. When they had that scene where it was shaking really bad at the end, mm-hmm. and things were coming off the machines.
That's one thing that really bothered me, is that they made a huge deal out of that, and then it calmed down, and like that kind of...
But listen... even back then, I thought that was kind of corny. I didn't think that it was real. Back then, when they did that machine thing and the pipe went down, it didn't look real. It looked phony. Mm-hmm. I thought then, couldn't they have done something better? It looked like a model of something.
Well, with a $6 million budget,
and then I talked to Danny about it. I said, Danny, that looked phony. He said, what do you think? What do you expect? He says, you think they're going to have a real nuclear power? He says it's just to show it that something could happen.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
He says you're supposed to see the message of it, and I'm like, okay. Because it made an impact. I was really so it did make the impact of the message that you have to be careful about nuclear power. And then today on Sunday morning, what were they talking about? Nuclear fusion.
Yep, about nuclear fusion. Being able to combine atoms in order to create a limitless energy source, which
is clean energy.
Yes, completely clean energy, carbon neutral, and unlimited.
And wouldn't cause
any kind of climate issues.
So anyway, that's what I wanted to mention.
Awesome. Well, this was, I'd say, the great start to a budding career with podcast producing and podcast coming out. If there are any movies in particular that come out that you would like to let us know about that are coming out that have been released this year, want to celebrate an anniversary, that I somehow miss when I'm going to research the films that have come out. The cutoff I start is at 1968 because it's easier to be able to follow the database of films that released in chronological order from 1968, from January to December. So 68 onwards, I'm going through the films that have come out. I think the real cutoff when it comes to more recent years was probably, I'm thinking like 2020, 5-year, max. That way we could reminisce about some films that have come out from 2020 into the past. That I think 5 years go by is kind of a big deal for some films. Others not so much. But we'll see.
And Jane Fonda just got the Lifetime Achievement Award at it the SAG?
Yeah, it was the SAG.
SAG, and she turned 80. And she's 87,
Mm-hmm.
and she was so coherent, and she had a great speech. And for 87 years old, and to be so coherent and so lively,
she really
and
was great.
she's still politically active,
Mm-hmm.
and she's still trying to change the world and do wonderful things for our world, is amazing.
Absolutely.
And still fighting to do things to make a difference is incredible.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here today, and we look forward to next week when we go over next week's films.
Movie Memories.
Yes, thank you for watching or listening to Movie Memories. You must remember this. Once again, I am Sword Alexander.
And I'm Tracy.
Thank you. I'll see you guys next time.